You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right, everybody, welcome to this week's REI Marketing Nerds podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWordsNerds.com. How are you? Wonderful people. I feel like I just went into my radio voice. It is a delightfully warm day here in Connecticut, which means it's 50 degrees. Thinking about going to the beach later. Who knows? And this week, I'm very happy to have you with me. This week, I'm talking to Todd Stelnick. Now, this is a really, really fascinating conversation. First of all, Todd is out in LA, one of the most competitive markets in the United States, a market that is very, very difficult to make headway in. And he, not only is he doing a lot of deals, closed about 54 deals this year, just had his best month ever in January. So he's doing very, very well. He came out of nowhere. He jumped into real estate investing from a completely different industry and just knocked it out of the park from the very beginning. And he has a very specific kind of way that he approaches investing that I think anybody can take and apply to their investing business right away. He's a fascinating guy, and you could really learn a lot from this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over and talk to Todd Stelnick from, get this, I want you to hear this guy's domain name. Here's his website, WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com. How is that for a URL, people? WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com. I'm going to kick it over right now to my conversation with Todd Stelnick. All right, I'm here with Todd Stelnick. Todd, how are you, man?
Good. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's a pretty chill Friday here. I got to go to the gym with my wife, which is pretty fun. My wife's like a pretty avid gym goer, so I'm feeling a little sore, but otherwise pretty awesome. What about yourself?
Not too bad. Just another day with all my teeth and all my hair.
That's nice. It must be nice to have hair, Todd. I noticed that you just shoved that right in my face right away. So,
yeah, I just realized I said that. I just rolled right off my tongue right there. So that was funny. Yeah, it's just been a great day. I had a couple good, buying calls this morning and dropped my kids off to school before that. So things are rocking and rolling for today.
That's awesome, man. So for people that don't know, you are investing, you are out in Los Angeles. In fact, we were just talking about this. Your domain name is We Buy Houses Los Angeles, which is pretty awesome. I know people are going to want to know this because I know a lot of investors, they go out and they're first starting up their website or whatever, and they want a certain domain name and they can't get it, right? So that everybody wants, Jack Buys Houses or We Buy Houses, whatever their city name. So can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up with the domain name WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com, because that's pretty awesome. I'm assuming you weren't the original owner, right?
Right. So I bought it off of somebody off of GoDaddy, actually, that basically buys a lot of different types of We Buy Houses investing domain name websites. And so that's how I came across with the WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com website. And how I got to this point is, how you always see those yellow signs and white signs on every lamppost and flagpole on the streets that says "We Buy Houses." Mm-hmm. Yep, one of my colleagues one day, has a We Buy Houses in their city website. So he says to me, when I was talking to him, "What's a good name?" He says, "Get We Buy Houses Los Angeles website, because all those signs that are on those flagpoles are doing free advertising for myself, because somebody goes by that lamppost or flagpole, sees the We Buy Houses sign, doesn't get the phone number, but types the We Buy Houses in the website on Google, and then my site pops up.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of got the conclusion of coming up with that name. So
that is awesome.
Which is pretty neat. That's the whole story of the We Buy Houses. I got people doing free advertisement for me without even thinking about it, you know?
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely huge because I think there's not a lot of organic search a lot of the time for investor kind of searches. We Buy Houses is one of the biggest ones for that reason specifically. So that's pretty awesome. So when you were looking on GoDaddy or whatever, did it just pop up as a suggestion? Like, did you know it was taken and try to hunt down the person that bought it? Like, how'd you get in touch with them?
Yeah, so it says on GoDaddy that it was owned by some guy and he was willing to sell it at a premium price. So I ended up buying that domain name, you know, at a big premium price. But it's well worth it, you know. So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of thing is more and more common now. I think for most of the domain name registrars that you use out there, they kind of have like a premium section, which just means someone bought it for $7 and wants to sell it to you for $10,000 or whatever it is. I did a similar thing. I recently bought, or last year rather, I bought motivatedsellerleads.com. And it was kind of the same thing where I just went to go look to see if it was taken. It was, there's like, hey, you know, there's a premium version. And the company that, you know, did that, they were like, hey, we'll even put you on a payment plan. So it was like $50 a month for however long it was. And, you know, for me at the moment, it was worth it. So I think for people out there that are wanting to buy that sweet domain name with your city name in it or whatever it is, you know, don't give up. If you think it's really worth it to you, there are some options out there. So, okay, so you're out in Los Angeles. You are an investor. Tell me a little bit about how did you first find out about real estate investing? Was this something that you've been doing forever? Or is this something that's relatively new for you? Like, how did you break into the world of real estate investing?
Right. So my wife is Stephanie Stelnick. Law office is Stephanie Stelnick. So she is a real estate attorney here in Los Angeles. And so it actually started off with her. She owns her own business, owns her own company. And she started to acquire and get clients that are in this space. So as she, you know, was getting clients and after cases would be settling and done, then, you know, she would talk with me like, this case was awesome. They evicted this guy, bought this house deep. They flipped it. They sold it, made $100,000. So I started getting intrigued by all these stories that she was sharing with me after she, you know, closed their case, and I had to jump right into it. I had to tell my wife, I got to try this out. I got to do it. So I literally, without no hesitation, got my site, you know, got things going, started doing, you know, direct mail like everybody else did. Then also moved as well to the internet space. And I started getting leads just like everybody else. And as soon as I started getting leads, then I started to buy houses. She set me up with my own LLC. She set me up with my purchase contracts, my assignment contracts. So I can start off wholesaling houses before I can coop up some money so I can start to put in some money to actually flip houses. And so I was wholesaling houses for maybe a good 10 months, a year before I started to flip houses, you know, and buy and hold my own houses for rent and the whole 9 yards. And so I just blew up instantly. Last year I did 54 deals, which is pretty big, I think, in the Los Angeles area because my competition is really high up there, you know, and the prices for these houses are outrageous. You know, we're not talking about $15,000, $20,000 purchases. We're talking about an average purchase around $300 to $450. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I can't flip everything. So that's why I still wholesale houses to other investors that can buy homes. But that's kind of how I started in a nutshell, was through her, just hearing some stories. And I just fell in love with it. I used to be an insurance broker, and I just totally stopped, and I couldn't do anything less than real estate. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I love buying homes. I love, you know, selling this piece of paper for $25,000. I mean, it was just amazing, this ride that I've continued on, you know, and now I'm linked up with AdWords nerds, trying to really do SEO on my site because I got a great domain name and I believe in it. And the SEO is a long strategy, but eventually it's going to catch fire, and I'm going to start getting leads and driving down my marketing costs.
Yeah.
My marketing cost out here is, $30,000 a month, whereas in somebody in the East Coast may be paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there that I'm really curious about. Like, kind of going back to that beginning, you kind of making the decision and just saying, like, I've got to jump in and do this, right? Like, how did you even know how to get started? Do you have any kind of background in real estate? Was it purely like your wife was giving you the background? Did you go with a coach? Like, how did you even figure out how this stuff works?
So basically, one of her investors took me under their wing and kind of helped me out in coaching. And it wasn't really the fact of, it was a guy that I can just go to and say, hey, I have this deal. What do you think? Just reinsuring myself. So I had a little bit of a mentor, and he also helped me out in learning how to get other investors so I can wholesale houses too. And he basically says, you get the house, I can help you out in wholesaling the house. And then I was able to form contacts and then jump on phones and make 100 million calls a day just to try to get more investors. So I had a book of clients that I can sell these homes to.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, my marketing cost was just the only cost I had in the game. I didn't have to pay any other risk factor besides spending money to get leads. And as long as I got leads, I was able to buy. And my ratio is pretty crazy compared to what others can do. Every 6 leads, I buy a home. So
wow, hold on. I mean, that is wild. That's a really low number. So why is it so low? 'Cause I would say, like, for average, right? I'm mostly talking about online leads here, but even online leads, it's about 1 out of 20 as a national average. So why is yours so low?
Correct. Yeah. So like out here in LA, a lot of investors, the average is 1 out of, that's funny you said 1 out of 20. The average is 1 every 18 leads out here.
Yeah.
From all my colleagues. And they know, and they always try calling me up and having me try to help them out and coach them and stuff like that. But they know my ratio is every 6 leads that I get it equals to a buy, So it's just low because I really don't know. Actually, I either A, I get lucky and get the right leads driving into my pocket, or B, people just trust me. People believe what I tell them. I start and I get a really good rapport on that very first call, that very first initiative. When I talk to that person and set an appointment, I break the ice very well. They trust me. They believe that what I'm buying their house for makes sense. And I don't have any hidden games. I tell people exactly how I buy a house. And I tell people, I go through all the steps. Here's my cost for realtor fees and closing costs when I resell it. Here's my cost for repairs and remodeling costs. And then here's what I'm paying for my time. And then this is why I'm buying the house for this amount of money from you. And I think people like that. I think a lot of people in this game feel like if they tell them what their costs are and how much they're getting paid, that it blows the whole deal. I've found the opposite. As long as I'm up front and telling them where they're losing out on money, they're only looking at it as, okay, they're only losing out on maybe $30,000 or $40,000 because that's going into my pocket for putting this all together for them. They're not really losing out on the realtor fees and closing costs because they would have lost anyways. And they're not losing out on repairs and remodeling costs because they would have had to pay that anyways to get that high sell of a house on their high sell price on their house.
Right.
So I think it works opposite. People are afraid to just tell the truth. And the more you tell the people the truth and be honest, the more they trust you and the more likely you're going to buy and acquire that home and put it under contract.
Are you an investor who wants to dominate your local market? Do you want more leads and deals online? Then download your copy of the Motivated Seller Blueprint, absolutely free, at www.adwordsnerds.com/gift. What are you waiting for? Go to www.adwordsnerds.com/gift right now to get your copy of the Motivated Seller Blueprint.
I mean, you think about what the average motivated seller is feeling in the moment that they are reaching out to an investor. Like their guard is already up. They're already suspicious, right? Like they are suspicious from the first moment. And so I think you're absolutely right that like when part of that is not transparent, their immediate thought is, well, this guy or woman is ripping me off, right? That's what they're going to assume.
Correct.
And I think if you spell it out and say, no, like this is why I price it this way. It's not like a number I pulled out of a hat. It's a number that's based on what these costs are going to be, how long it's going to take me, yada, yada, yada. Then it's like, okay, they can actually relax a little bit because they understand you're not there just to take as much money as humanly possible out of their pocket.
Correct. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of these houses that we're buying, people have lived there their whole life. It's their only asset that they've ever tied their name to. And now out of some weird situation, something has fallen apart in their lives and they have to sell their house. They have to sell their house fast because they're in a financial problem. They got to sell a house because it was inherited and the house is just totally needs to be a fixer-upper. So they just rather sell it as is condition on the market. And they obviously can't sell it on the MLS. And so it's like, this is like their only asset that these people have, the money in their hands. And it's a huge decision on how they're going to make the decision on selling this house in order to gain much money in their pocket. And so as long as I can convince them and tell them, the truth on how I'm coming to a number, then they feel much better with the transaction of selling their house and they can sleep on their pillow at the end of the day, at the end of the night.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like I've actually talked about this before on this show, but I think a lot of people think of investing as this very objective, very numbers driven kind of transaction. And it is, right? You got to know your margin, you got to know your costs, you got to know the market. But so much of it is emotional intelligence when it comes down to it, right? And understanding like this weird situation that you're in with this other person. And for you, it's another deal. For them, it's one of the most important transactions they're ever going to undertake in their lives, right? So I think you seem to have a really good grasp of that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is like probably the only money and the lump sum of money they're ever going to get in their whole entire life. And it's either going to change their life or it's just going to help them at the time being. So, they just... at the end of the day, this is like their biggest prized possession besides probably their kids. I mean, their real estate home, their property that they own is everything to them. Yeah. So as much as I can make them feel comfortable that they're making a good decision and a good deal, and I'll walk away from people, I'll tell them, you know what? This house doesn't need fixing up. You don't have any problems here. Unless if you need the money right away, take an agent and sell it on the market. I'm okay walking away and telling people and moving on to the next deal. I really look for the sellers that are in a pinch, are in a problem that I can solve and help them out of that phase.
Yeah. Los Angeles as a market, like how does that, obviously Los Angeles is not anywhere USA. It is a very specific place, right? With a specific kind of setup and culture. And so like, what's it like investing in LA? Like, what is that like?
There's the best thing about LA is that there's so many houses. I mean, there's so many houses in Los Angeles County, everywhere, and in every county in California, obviously. So there's so many houses for everybody to buy, but when it comes to that, I got, probably a good 100, 200 investors and wholesalers that I got to go against every single day.
Yeah.
So it has been a little diluted as the months progress, but then it'll change. Like all of a sudden, investors are not spending money to get leads, and I continue to be constant and consistent with my money online and direct mail. And as long as you're consistent, I feel like, some months, like last month I bought, actually it was my breaking month. Last month I bought 12 homes. I really shouldn't be bragging about it. But before that, the best month was 9, but last month was crazy. It was 12 homes that I bought, so that's not normal. Usually the norm out here for an investor is probably 2 to 3 homes a month, maybe 4 max.
Yeah.
That's probably I mean, there's just so many homes out here, but there's so many investors. It's hard to acquire 10 homes a month, on an average. That number doesn't happen. I'm usually acquiring anywhere from 4 to 6, but 12 was a crazy number. It seemed like every single appointment I went on, everybody was like, yes, I'll sell you my home. Yes, I'll sell you my home.
Right.
So it just was, I was just rolling with it. This month of February, I bought 3 homes so far, so go figure,
Yeah. Well, and I know you mentioned consistency, right? So does the amount of marketing that you're doing go up and down? Like if if you're closing 12 homes, are you like, oh, I have to back off? Or do you keep it pretty much the same every single month?
I try to keep it the same every single month. Every single month, I try to keep it the same. I continue. Although the only thing I have changed is obviously invested with you guys. That was an add-on. So I didn't take away from what I'm doing. Right. I just added what you guys are charging me to do the SEO so I can add that piece to my equation.
Right.
But that's it. I mean, the biggest thing is consistently market every month. And, some months you might be 1 home, 10 homes, 3 homes, 4 homes. At the end of the year, you should collectively, hopefully average the same amount of homes if you consistently pay for the same amount of leads.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely huge. I mean, I don't want to, I want to take a minute and kind of think about that, because I think the tendency, right, is when things are kind of slow, people ramp up their marketing a lot. When they get busy, they tend to pull it back. And it creates this boom bust cycle that's very hard to get out of, right? And I think it's this idea of making a consistent investment, or, it could be your effort, it could be time, it could be money, whatever it is, but being consistent about what you're putting out there, because especially for things like direct mail, you are trying to get a certain number of views on a piece right before you're generally going to get a response, right? So it's not, I sent it out once and it either worked or it didn't. It's a consistent thing, right? For SEO, it's very much the same thing in the idea that, like, hey, we have to consistently try to build links. We have to consistently try to post content. We have to consistently grow out the site, because if we just do everything 1 month and then we don't do anything in month 2 or 3, we're not going to get the same benefit from that. So I think that's awesome that I think it requires a lot of discipline to do it that way, because there must be months where you're like, hey, I didn't get the return that I'm used to. Just like there are months, like you said, last month, that was like your best month ever. So I think it takes a lot of discipline to kind of stick to the plan when things are, kind of all over the place.
Right. And what was crazy is that I did think about this year peeling back the onion on my marketing dollars, because last year in January, I only bought 1 house. In February, I bought 2 houses. So I remembered that. I remembered I didn't get started until March, and then I started buying 4 houses a month. So I almost peeled back my marketing. I said, you know what? Let's just keep the dice rolling. Luckily, I did, because I found out a lot of my colleagues actually stopped their marketing for whatever reason, because they started calling me up and I started calling them up, and I just kept my marketing going, and good things ended up really happening in the month of January. So now like next year, I'll obviously know, like, January is my best month, probably, because the odds of me beating 12 houses in a month, I probably slim to none. It will happen, but I don't know when. That's just a lot of houses. I mean, people that tell you that I bought like 100, 200, 300 homes, I think they're lying to you. There's no way people are buying that many homes. Me buying 54 homes, that's a realistic number. But if somebody says I bought 200-300 homes last year, okay, either A, they got like 10 buyers working for them, or B, they're lying to you. One or the other, because there's just not enough time in the day and throughout the week to buy that many houses. It takes time to really do this.
So do you have anybody working for you? Do you have any kind of team, or are you a one-man shop?
I am I take that back. So I'm a one-man shop in LA County, right? Okay. But I do also spend a few marketing dollars in a couple other counties that are connected with LA County. So like San Bernardino, Riverside, Kern County, Ventura, and OC. And I have 2 other people that I've trained and coach, and they buy in those counties. And I buy in Los Angeles County. So yeah, I'm a one-man team in the LA County, but I also have them buying some homes for me as well too. But I don't mix that with the number. So that the 12 homes in January, that was all in LA County.
Right.
So but both of those buyers, I don't spend as much money on those counties because I'm not fully in there, but I just do it just to keep the dikes rolling a little bit. Yeah. And each of them bought two each. So they were successful as well too, so.
And do you have like a goal of hiring people, or are you just like, hey, I actually like what I'm doing? So, I think a lot of investors are like, they kind of get into it with this idea of like, yeah, I'm flipping homes, I'm making money, whatever it is. But, they also have this idea that like, well, it's going to be hands off. I'm going to automate it. I'm going to outsource it. I'm not going to have to actually do it. Right. So is that part of your kind of trajectory, or are you happy actually doing the actual work of investing in the properties?
Yeah. Actually my strategy in the future is actually the long haul is to come in a coach and trying to, train people that want to get into house flipping or wholesaling. So I don't think I would ever give up the leads that I generate for myself to hire somebody underneath of me, because I don't think anybody can be as good as a buyer as myself, So I'm okay with buying consistently 50 homes, give or take a year. And I don't need to be greedy and make so much or so forth, make so much or make less or whatnot. That's okay with me. A lot of people like to, like you said, streamline it, hire buyers, have a whole, disposition team and an acquisition team, and they kind of build it all up. I feel like if I did that, I probably would make the same amount of money, because you put in so much marketing dollars to cater to all these acquisition people and these disposition people. Okay, so if I bought 200 homes, but I got to pay 10 guys, I'm probably making the same amount of money buying 50 homes.
Yeah.
And a lot less risk because I know that I'm the buyer. I know what I'm saying out to people, and I don't know what other buyers are saying out to other people. I only got 2 buyers that are working for me, and they don't, get as many leads as I get, but they talk with me, and I think that's just enough. I feel like if I just go crazy and have 10, 12, 15 buyers, you got to pay those people. So at the end of the day, could I make more? I just don't know. I have talked to people that have built it that way, and they have like numerous amount of headaches, So my avenue, because a lot of people ask me like, hey, Todd, how do you buy all these homes? And you're just a single guy doing this, a single investor. Can you teach me? And I have a lot of friends and family. When I do posts on Facebook, they always ask me, hey, can I get in? Can I get in? I always say, no. Lately, I have been thinking, is there a way that maybe I can, mentor and coach people for a fee, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting way of doing it because it would pull me away from what I'm doing, but who knows? I mean, maybe it would work. Maybe it wouldn't work. I've been kicking the tires back and forth.
Well, there's a lot of leverage. There's a lot of leverage in coaching, right? Because you can pass on knowledge to 100 people or 10 people in roughly the same amount of time, right?
Right.
So I think it's cool because I think like one of the things I really like about real estate investing is, unlike a lot of business models, it's a business that really thrives on people who have had success coming back and teaching other people how to do it, right? There's not like a lot of people who like open successful pizza restaurants and then come back to coach other people in opening pizza restaurants, right? It's a community that really thrives on passing knowledge from people who are further along to people who are getting started. So I think there's a lot of demand for that, and I think being someone who does a lot of coaching in this space myself, it's a lot of fun. Like it's really great. I think you're exactly right that I definitely think you could make more money if you had a team of 10 people, but there's always a headache, right? I think the myth is that you're going to be sitting on the beach sipping Mai Tais all the time and, just money's going to be pouring in. And I'm like, yeah, you could build a team. Like I have my agency is a team of 10, but I still have a job. It's managing the team of 10 people, right? It's just not doing the ads anymore. It's managing the team. So, I think you don't have to scale it up. You can make a ton of money, be super happy, do the stuff that you like. I think a lot of times people feel pressure to do that because they think that's like the logical next step. It's what they quote unquote have to do. But it seems like you found a real sweet spot and a part that something that's really working for you and that you're awesome at, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, which is very rare to get, I still get sellers that actually call me up and refer me at their friends and family's houses to go buy, which is free leads, completely free. And it's only because I cared about the situation that I did with them on buying their house that I felt pretty good. I'll buy a house super tight and make $5,000 in wholesale, where people will never do that. But at the end of the day, I help that person out and selling their house for the money that they need in their pocket, And I would never be able to get that experience if I just dished off my whole world to a bunch of people and sipping Mai Tais on the beach.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I don't know if I could give up. At the end of the day, I actually really, truly like what I'm doing, which also could go with why my production and ROIs are really good and per amount of leads I get is really good because I really care about what I do. It's not just buying a house and making a bunch of money. And it's also helping these people because they really are in a bad position that I hope I'm never in, and I hope you're never in, Dan,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. And I think people kind of sidestep away that and see the dollar sign and just get way too greedy, and so, people should look back and understand that you just bought a house at a deep price, but this guy lets you do it. You got to care about this guy. You got to feel for what they're feeling,
Yeah. I think, it's interesting, you were talking about in the beginning of the call, right? You were talking about SEO and you're like, hey, this is kind of a long-term thing. It takes time to work, but when it works, it's going to be huge, right? And in a way, right, what you're talking about now is exactly the same thing, right? You're working with people and you're like, hey, this person really needs my help. I might not make a lot of money off this, right? But you're willing to do it because, you enjoy the process, you enjoy helping people. Well, that ends up coming back to you in referrals and other deals and kind of goodwill. And that's another process where, if you look at it in that moment, just looking at the numbers, you can say like, well, Todd, look, like you're not making much money off this. You didn't make enough money to cover your time. This was a loss for you. But if you zoom out and look at the next 5, 10, 20 years, you can see that come back to you tenfold, right? And so it's this idea of this process that's a consistent amount of effort and it's a lot of work, but it ends up coming back with a lot of return on your investment of that time and effort over time. And I think it's pretty interesting, man. I think you very clearly love what you do and you've found a really awesome way of doing it. So I think that's pretty amazing. For people that want to find more about you and want to learn about you and what you're doing, how can they do that? Like, what's the best way for people listening to this podcast to connect with you?
Just go to WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com and, my phone number is on the website, or you can put in an inquiry online or a contact inquiry and we can get connected. And I'd be glad to share experiences and help anybody that needs assistance in this space.
Yeah. And I would tell people if you are listening to this podcast and you are looking for a coach or somebody, now is the time to grab Todd before he realizes how much he should be charging. Now is the time to get in and figure this out. Todd, thanks, man. This was an absolute pleasure. I really, really enjoyed this. And it was great to get to know you a little bit in your business. It sounds like you're doing really awesome work. And I'm very, very happy to count you as a client for sure.
I appreciate it, Dan. And thanks again, Jeremiah and Patty. Just want to give you guys a shout out. Thanks for doing what you guys are doing on my website. It's looking better every week as the weeks go by.
Absolutely not. You are not allowed to give a shout out to my team. I have to keep their morale very, very low. That's how I get them to work. All right.
See, that's what happens. You got 10 people. Now you may have to do something for Jeremiah and Patty, because I just gave them a shout out. But
yeah.
No,
See,
thank you guys.
My whipping arm is so sore all the time from just lashing. They toil in the SEO mines. But yeah, man. Well, hey, Todd, have a great rest of your day, man. I will talk to you very soon.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good one. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, man. Cheers. All right, everybody. That was it for my conversation with Todd Stelnick from WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com. Like he mentioned at the end there, if you want to go find him, learn more about what Todd is doing, he is obviously up to some really, really fascinating things. And you can find him at WeBuyHousesLosAngeles.com. As always, guys, if you are not in our Facebook group, it is free and it is awesome. I am posting high-level training in there every single week. And you can find that at AdWordsNerds.com/group. That's AdWordsNerds.com/group. And just in general, if you want to find more information about me, about the show, you can find the show notes for this week's episode and more at AdWordsNerds.com. Just click on the blog or podcast, link a doodle, whatever you want to call it. You'll find all sorts of stuff there. I'm posting a lot of content there at the site. So it's a great place to come and get more information about growing your online marketing for motivated sellers. As always, guys, this is Daniel Barrett signing off. I will see you next week. Go out there, have an awesome rest of your work week, close a bunch of deals, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.